If you're planning an open concept kitchen in Miami, you've probably already pictured the finished room. The island sideline into the living area. The light crossing the floor from one side of the house to the other. And in most homes, that picture starts with one interior wall coming down. Homeowners treat that wall like a demolition detail. Something you knock out on day 2, before the real work starts. In Miami, it's the opposite. That wall is the part of the project that sets the permit, the structural drawings, the schedule, and a large share of the budget. Here's why. Many of these interior walls hold the house up. Removing a load-bearing wall is not demolition. It's a structural alteration, and Miami-Dade treats it as one. Before any sledgehammer swings, there's an engineer, a sealed structural plan, a permit, and if you're in a condo, a board button. In this video I'm going to walk you through the real sequence a licensed contractor follows to open up a Miami kitchen. How to tell if your wall is load-bearing, what Florida's hurricane code adds that no national guide accounts for, the condo approval most people don't know exists, and what actually drives the cost. By the end of this, the open concept kitchen you're picturing will be the one that actually gets approved. I'm Gaben Constructions, a Florida Certified General Contractor, license GCG 1524886, verifiable at myfloridalicense.com. Over 500 projects since 2015 across Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Open concept kitchen conversions and load-bearing wall removal are work we handle constantly. Let's get into it. The first question a contractor answers is whether the wall carries weight. In the concrete block and slab houses common across Miami-Dade and Broward, interior partitions are often non-structural. But walls running perpendicular to the roof or floor framing frequently carry load. Here's the twist. The wall between a Miami kitchen and its living room, the exact wall most homeowners want gone for an open concept layout, is exactly the kind that often turns out to be load-bearing. The only reliable way to know is to have a structural engineer confirm it. Ceiling hoist direction, what sits in the attic above, whether a second story bears down, all of that factors in. If the wall is load-bearing, it can't simply disappear. Its load transfers to a replacement beam, a header spanning the new opening, carried by posts down to a footing or a reinforced point in the slab. She thinks that beam is engineering, not guesswork. The American Wood Council's Wood Frame Construction Manual publishes the engineered and prescriptive span tables that govern how far a header can carry before it needs more depth or a steel section. A wider opening calls for a deeper or stronger beam, which is exactly why how much can we take out is a structural answer, not a design one. This is where the DY videos and the Miami reality part ways completely. Removing an interior wall is permitted work. Miami-Dade County lists it plainly. Interior renovations like knocking down a wall require a permit, pulled and closed by the licensed contractor. Skip it and you've created unpermitted structural work, which resurfaces at resale, at insurance renewal, and at the next permit the house needs. For a load-bearing wall, the bar is higher. The City of Miami's own demolition checklist requires that plans for modifications to load-bearing walls or other structural components be reviewed and sealed by a licensed professional, with a structural inspection during the work, not only at the end. And Miami-Dade's a layer no national guide accounts for. These houses sit in a high-velocity hurricane zone, so the Florida Building Code, existing building, routes structural alterations through the HVHZ wind load provisions. The new beam and its connections aren't designed for gravity alone. They're designed to hold in a windstorm. That's the gap between a BIM that passes inspection in Miami and one copied from a generic online span chat. On a wall removal job, we settle 3 questions in week 1. Is it load bearing? How wide does the opening want to be? And is there a condo board? Those 3 answers set the engineering, the permit path, and the schedule before a single finish is chosen. In a Miami condo tower, the slab is rarely the obstacle. The association is removing or altering a wall that ties into the building's structure is a material alteration to the common elements, and Florida's Condominium Act governs it. Under Florida Statutes 718.113, when the declaration doesn't spell out a procedure, 75% of the total voting interests must approve a material alteration before the work begins. That's a building-wide vote, not a courtesy note to the property manager. It runs alongside the engineering and the permit, and it's often the longest pole in the entire schedule. A homeowner who lines up the engineer and the permit but not the association can watch an approved design stall for a season waiting on that vote. The wall itself is cheap to remove. Everything around it is what moves the number. 4 levers do most of the work. First, whether it's load bearing. A non-structural partition is a demolition line item. A load bearing wall brings an engineer, a beam, posts, and footings. Second, the span. An open concept kitchen usually wants a wide opening, which needs a deeper or steel beam and heavier supports, plus temporary shoring while the load transfers. Third, what's inside the wall. Plumbing, a returner duct, or electrical hydrants each at a trade to relocate before framing. Fourth, condo logistics. Association approval, insurance certificates, and restricted work hours all carry cost a single family job doesn't. Because those 4 levers swing so widely, a wall removal is priced per project, never per foot. One thing worth being honest about before you commit to this. Open concept living has a few real trade-offs. Cooking noise, smells, and heat carry straight into the living space once the wall is gone. You lose a run of wall for cabinets and art, and in Miami specifically, one large open volume conditions differently than 2 separated rooms. That's a cooling wrinkle most people don't think about until after the wall is already down. Most homeowners still choose the light and the sidelines. But that's a decision worth making with the wall still standing, not after. So here's what it actually takes to open a Miami kitchen into an open concept layout. Confirm whether the wall is load bearing. Get the beam engineered and sealed. Pull the permit. Clear the condo board if there is one. Then open the wall. None of that is optional if the wall carries weight. And none of it shows up in the finished photo. That's exactly the point. The structure decides whether the room is legal. The finishes come after. At Gaben Constructions we handle load-bearing wall removal as part of a full kitchen remodel, coordinated under one license from the engineer to the final inspection. If you're planning an open concept kitchen in Miami-Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach County, the number is 786-397-8380. The link is below. Florida Certified General Contractor. License GCG 1524886. 500 plus projects since 2015. We'll see you on the next one.